so important to be in the right environment so you can prosper and become the best version of yourself.
Every time I've let you in, you've let me down.
Okay, on today's Muscle and Mind podcast, I've got two guys that I've looked up to. Well, I've looked up to Milos pretty much right throughout the 90s, right throughout my teenage years. And obviously Ben Pakulski, I've seen him come right through the 2000s and into this new era of being called the bodybuilding yogi. And it's an honor. And I look at these two guys as the thoughtful leaders of the new age of bodybuilding and the impact that they're making around the world with their muscle camps. And they've walked into my gym today, and I wanted to really take the opportunity, even though I wasn't prepared, to be able to interview you two guys. And I want people on our podcast to go away going, what impact has Milos and Ben made on my life through the principles and the disciplines that you've acquired, but not only what you've acquired, also the experience of the transition in your lives, because you guys have been around for a long time, and I've seen the transition. I mean, Milos looks a lot younger, and I'll start with you, Milos. One of the most beautiful physiques in the 90s.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
For the viewers that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
Yes. First, I want to salute this podcast, right? Muscle and Mind Intelligent Podcast. To my right is a truly muscle intelligent genius, Ben Pakulski, that is now really at another level. I'm really appreciating the opportunity to travel with him. We were friends for many years. I coached him back in 2010, and I've just seen expansion of his knowledge, interest, and the influence that he has on so many people. But just to touch the subject, as you said, that you followed me back in the 90s, yeah, I competed from 1991 until 2003. I was one of the few, or maybe the only ones, that competed in every show. Like 91, every IBB organized show I answered, I competed in. 92, 97, 99. Coming from a small country in Yugoslavia at the time, I had a precise goals what I wanted to do. I made a plan, 5-year plan, that I need to come here to the United States, turn IBB professional, win Mr. Universe, qualify for Miss Olympia, and make living off of bodybuilding. So a lot of people at my country back in the day didn't believe that that would be possible. And I would tell you, as we're talking about the mindset and how a lot of people come short of first establishing what they want to accomplish and then reaching that goals. I had never doubted that I would accomplish everything. I mean, there was never a shadow of the doubt. And not just that I accomplished everything in 5 years, my original plan I did in 4. Right. So, the seminars and training camps, when I go around the world, I like to encourage everyone that I'm not superior or inferior to anybody. I did it. Everybody can, if they have, precise goal and intelligently work on it. They're aware of situation. They're, as Ben said, mindful, discipline, and they set high goals. And there is no question of if; it's just question of when things will happen.
Fantastic. I really, looking back at your career, you had the sort of modern day Frank Zane look, and I can kind of see why Ben, kind of looked up to you, and then had you as a trainer. Yeah. What was that first relationship like for both of you, Ben, when you first met Milos?
Yeah.
Did you look up to him? Was that something?
And I try not to make him feel old, but
but he was like the modern day Frank Zane.
No question.
Thank you.
So, I was 15 years old and watching him compete or watching him, in the magazines, and I just thought it was the greatest physique on the planet. First time I saw him live was I was 98 or 99 at the Olympia, and went to both of those, and someone I was always aspiring to, especially because he took the intelligent approach. And when I was 18 years old, I kind of made this decision, or at least I was seeking someone who could lead me in all aspects of the business, or all aspects of the bodybuilding industry. And it was like someone who can teach me nutrition, someone who can teach me training, someone who can teach me really everything. And there really wasn't anybody except for him. So he was the only one actually taking an intelligent approach to everything. And so for that point, he doesn't know this, but I just latched on to everything he said from the time I was literally 18 years old in 1999. And he was already on the Olympia stage. And so anytime there was an article by Milos, I'm going to read it. Every time there's a video on bodybuilding.com, I'm going to watch it. Every time he did one of his videos on YouTube or wherever, I'm watching it and trying to learn everything I can. And, through a mutual friend of ours, ended up meeting Milos and just felt so blessed to be able to spend a small amount of time, unfortunately, training with him. It would have been amazing if it was much longer. But we did spend a good 6 weeks training about every day. I drove almost an hour to his gym every day. And he put me through some of the most hellacious workouts. But that's not even what I like to emphasize on when it comes to Milos. Is he created a new standard in my mind, right? So when I started bodybuilding, I wanted to be the best in the world. And I didn't know what that took, but that was my standard. And I wanted to look like him. I wanted to look like the top guys in the world. When I met him in 2010, the attention to detail and all of the little stuff, so the posing, journals, how hard I had to work, the mindset of there's no option for anything other than your best. If your thought is I'm going to quit at any second, you leave now. And he wasn't always nice about it, but one of the things he said to me as he walked in the gym, and he'll smile, it's like, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to make you your best. And I think he says it to everybody, but he certainly said that to me, and that just sticks out in my mind as how I approach things now. Is I'm not trying to be nice to you in the gym. I don't need to be your friend. I don't need to coddle you. I'm not here to walk on eggshells and worry about what I say to you. I'm just gonna crush you, and you're gonna get better because of it. And that mentality carried me a long way in bodybuilding.
So Milos, you had obviously a methodical approach. People say if you want to become the greatest at anything, it's all about the 1%ers. And that's what you were just talking about, Ben. Were you always like that, or was that something that you acquired? Or, you came from obviously Yugoslavia, you were the underdog, no one expected you to win. Is that what made you become like that?
Well, being an underdog, I always talk about it. I cheer always for underdog. For me, I was just blessed to have a father who was not a psychiatrist, most brilliant man I actually ever knew, most educated. And for whatever reason, when you're a teenager, you don't want to really listen to your parent, no matter how brilliant it is. But he set a few things in my mind, and there is that I can accomplish everything. But if you want to reach for the stars, you have to know how to get there in most effective, the fastest way, maximizing everything. I think that a lot of people, drift around. They don't have a precise direction, and they don't maximize every aspect of their life, or bodybuilding, nutrition, training. So for me, I had to really clarify what is maximally beneficial nutrition, what is maximum amount of protein, which I was very loud about it, and a lot of people didn't agree with me, but I went to extremely high protein intake. What is maximal stimulation of muscle fibers? How do you accomplish all that stuff? So, for me, it was always about maximizing everything. If I go to the gym, you go to the gym, what is your goal? And your goal would be maximal stimulation of maximum amount of muscle fibers of a targeting muscle group, whatever you're training. So that would be definition. And as Ben said, if anybody would come train with me, regardless if you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, me as the lead coach, I would have to maximize whatever your potential is. So first time that he came, I just talked about that in his podcast. I don't even remember that I put him through 15 different exercises for back, and I didn't take quitting as an option. His training partner that came with him, quit, and I kicked him out of the gym. Wow. Really. So I would be painted as maybe, asshole, or just not such a polite guy. But if you're true to yourself, and you want to maximize his development and his success and effectiveness of training, then you have to be true to yourself and train him that way. So, for me, it was always about that.
Do you think, the tough love approach worked really well for you, Ben? And do you think, living in today's sort of era of bodybuilding, that you know, maybe that tough love approach is lacking all that honesty, because a lot of the times we try and tippy-toe around being honest with individuals that aren't putting in the work.
I think in any relationship in life, having a foundation in honesty is the only way to be successful, right? So if him and I want to make each other better and we're blowing smoke up each other's butt, it doesn't help anybody, right? So foundation of honesty is imperative, and that's why I was drawn to him, is because that's what I craved. I craved some, like, I didn't want to be just okay, right? I wanted to be the best. So the only way I knew I could be the best is if I had someone who was really hard on me and really honest. And you're absolutely right, most people can't take that. And even I struggle with it sometimes now with my clients, is like actually telling them the truth, because you realize most people aren't strong enough mentally to hear it. I do lean towards always doing my best to say, like, hey, you're not ready, you need to do better, you need to do this and you do this. But you know, most people won't act on it even if you tell them, unfortunately. But you know, I think I was someone who, whatever he told me to do, I may have sometimes been like, really? I'm like, yes. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And when you learn, the thing with Milos is, like, what you see is what you get. He's the most honest guy you'll ever meet in your life. So if he tells you something, it's not him trying to get a rise out of you. He's not trying to be funny. He's not trying to do something, make you do something that's going to hurt you. It's like, hey, this is what he knows from X number of years of experience to be the absolute best case scenario.
Well, if you look at the principles of being successful or getting an outcome, a desired outcome, they're pretty much the same in everything that you do, right? So, like, you know, people go, what does it take to be successful in anything, right? It's 24/7. If you want to be successful as a bodybuilder, that clock doesn't stop. You got to get a certain amount of sleep. You got to get a certain amount of meals. You got to do your work in the gym. Otherwise, you're not going to get a result. You know, a lot of people find it hard to take that information in, and it's not easy work, is it?
Yeah. If it's easy, everybody will do it. As Arnold, you know, had a lot of those, you know, posters on our Instagram. When they tell him, "Oh, I would never want to look like you," I said, "Don't worry, you can't." You know, but you know, really, in essence, I think that a lot of people fall into mediocrity and following, you know, just I'm okay to be alive. Yeah. They spend a life expiring, basically. They don't make days count, they count the days. You know, so I think whatever you choose to do, is bodybuilding, different sport, business, doesn't matter what it is, establish first in your mind, what do you want to accomplish? And then be honest to yourself and don't follow, lead. Yes. You know, because every time you follow, okay, it's always good to have a guidance. I mentioned a lot of times one of my childhood heroes, Bruce Lee, who always meticulously said, first accept no style as a style, have your own style, but observe everything, and what you find useful, use it. What you find useless, you know, discard, but create what is essentially your own. You know, so I see a lot of people, even in our seminar now, we were in Dubai, we're going to do it in Sydney and Melbourne, Bali next 3 weeks. A lot of people ask questions that they obviously didn't thought before answering themselves. Yes. You know, so they're following. You know, so if you accept, okay, for example, in bodybuilding, you're going to be a competitive bodybuilder and you want to be on Olympia stage. What does it take to get there? First, mindset, goal, and then discipline, that you're going to eat so many meals. Like so I would say many bodybuilders nowadays, even pros, they don't eat as much as they're supposed to, quantitatively, qualitatively. Training, we talk about 90s. I think that we train way harder than, you know, guys nowadays. You know, so you know, supplementation, you know, any additional knowledge that you can apply for recovery, for you know, meditation, and you know, many things that now Yogi of Bodybuilding, Ben is really expert at. Nobody applies it. You know, you can't get somewhere, especially at the top of the mountain, if you're wandering around. Yes. You know, there is a way to get there, and you have to do everything in your power to reach the top, you know, using all the tools that you have available.
Ben, I'll go to you now. I mean, how important now is meditation and yoga in modern day bodybuilding? Do you think there's a much bigger place for it? Do you see?
I don't think it's possible to answer unless it's contextual, right? So, who is it, and what is the limitation? So most people in this day and age are overstressed. Most people have a hard time focusing, right? Most people can't sleep. Most people have a very high respiration rate. They're breathing very, very fast. Their body's on high alert. There's always a lion in the room. So your body's always burning through more calories at rest. It's burning through more carbohydrates. It's not going into that recovery, that anabolic mode. So if that's the case, then you don't stand a chance of building muscle without learning how to control that, right? So even as much as 30 years ago when Milos was 25 years ago when Milos was really getting into bodybuilding, it's a very different scenario than it is now, right? There's certainly less internet. There's certainly less cell phones. There's probably less EMF. There's probably less things that are just toxic to the environment and his internal environment. So he may not have needed it as much, right? Maybe just an hour at the beach or maybe an hour in the sunshine was enough for him. But in this evolved state we're living in, like, you need to do so many more things that are going to calm down that sympathetic nervous system, right? So you have your autonomic nervous system and learning how to kind of stimulate the parasympathetic. And meditation, as he says, is like meditation is just your greatest opportunity to learn how to focus. And focus in this day and age is a superpower, man. And he speaks of discipline, and I think focus and discipline are obviously going hand in hand. And if I go in the gym and I can't focus, what's the likelihood I'm going to build muscle? If I'm building a business and I can't focus, what's the likelihood I'm going to build a business? In a relationship, if I can't focus, I'm always looking in all these different places. What's the likelihood I'm going to have a successful relationship? And just focus is a superpower. So I think meditation, and even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's 10 minutes, is teaching you how to keep this single point of focus, teaching you how to pay attention to your breath, teaching you how to slow down your breath. All of these things are going to result in better muscle building, better quality of life, better emotional resilience, more happiness, better sleep. It's 5 minutes a day or 10, whatever, right? Like, all relative. You do 60 minutes, you're gonna be a superstar. But if you can do 10 minutes a day, it's, and life-changing sounds cliche, but I don't think there's anything more life-changing. The three things that I kind of suggest everyone do is breathe, walk, and meditate. And if you don't do those things, like, you shouldn't be allowed to use the human body. Like the foundation of all human optimization has to start with this foundation of the three most reflexive things we do as humans. It's breathing. You don't think about it. We'll do it well. Don't do it poorly. Walking, because it's, again, the second most reflexive, and meditation is like exercise for your mind. And those three things, if everyone could do those, the world would be a better place.
Do you think in the 90s, we didn't have much technology at all? If any, really. Nokias were just coming out, the big brick phones, but not many people had them. Do you think that was a big advantage to the bodies of the 90s? Because once technology came in,
absolutely,
information's
up, cortisol's up, inflammation's up 1,000%.
The bodies, the bodies look more crisper, they look more fuller, they look more rounder in the 90s. And
there's a lot of reasons for that, but that's just one, right?
Okay, yeah.
So foundationally, if your body's more inflamed from stress, if it's higher cortisol from stress, it's not going to be as receptive to nutrients. It's not going to be as receptive to recovery. Your brain's not going to be working as well because inflammation is going to shut off the brain as well. So all of these things are just foundational, right? And not to make excuses for the bodybuilders of now or then. It's just a part of life. And until we adapt to it, the physiques won't get better, right? The ability to build muscle. These guys it's become a drug-based culture, meaning people think if I take more drugs, I'll get better. Whereas with him, it's like, I need to train more. I need to eat more. I need to train harder. These guys are training harder than me, right? And that's the difference. Is guys think, well, I'm not big enough. I'm not taking enough stuff yet. Yeah. And that's just ludicrous. And I think that was a fault of the internet is, you get one a-hole who posts something that's completely not true on the internet, and all of a sudden it's perpetuated as like, well, this is the standard. And now there's 8 million kids out there hurting themselves doing things that are just unnatural and stupid. That's the blessing and the curse of the internet, right? It gives you access to guys like this, but it also gives you access to keyboard warriors who are making things up that are complete nonsense.
Tell you what I find humbling about Milos, we talked about it off camera, where he was once your trainer, and now he looks up to you as an inspiration. What was that like for you? Coming through the sport where you're the leader, now you're looking at him as the...
Well, listen, it's always a blessing. I'm delighted that Ben is at the level that he's at. The 2010 when we connected, of course, I felt I had a lot of things to teach him, and right now, I'm taking this trip as a learning, trip, and I learned a lot of things from him. That's natural progression, and there's not so many people like him that he was just absorb the knowledge and apply his way of thinking. One of the best quotes that I always use from Socrates, it's like, I can't teach you anything, I can make you think. So this is why I said there are a lot of followers that would, read something on the internet, like he says, it could be just completely bogus information, and they are stuck to it. They say, why don't you think about it? Does this make sense? And then if it doesn't make sense, okay, expand on it, put your personal touch on it. And this is what he's doing. I mean, first he's wealth of knowledge, wealth of information, and he's discarding, even some, let's say, scientists that maybe he would respect, but it's okay. This does not make sense to him. We were talking about training, for example, today, and we were about to do the calves, and I said how I was advising many times like full stretch, overstretch, right? And because I was told by some of the guys with the great calves, thumb flats, and 2 times I tore my calf left and right, once in Spain, once in China, trying to explain to the my students how to not just stretch. Now you're supposed to overstretch, and I did a tear, and he was kind of laughing. Yeah, that's exactly what you get, So
That's exactly.
yeah. So there are certain points we talk about. Mind-muscle connection. You mentioned that I was among the first, maybe, that I was loud about it. He brought this to completely another level. You need to know your kinesiology, anatomy, physiology. You need to know how muscle function. And I was criticized many times with using like less than respectful weight. They want to go heavy or go home and stuff like that. I mean, it's nonsense that. As we teach in seminars and camps, it's about challenging the muscle, not doing the movement, not doing the exercise. He used the term muscle-centric, which I never heard, but that's exactly, you need to know function of the muscle, you need the insertion and origin, and position yourself that you can really focus on it, feel that stretch, feel that contraction, and then maximize it. And a lot of people, even to this day, I was gym owner, you're 22 years gym owner, you watch them doing it years and years of the same things, not having any or mediocre results, because they just don't think, they're not focused, and they don't have that stimulation. So one of the big things is that I've seen when Ben started Muscle Intelligence, he has a mastery execution. If you want to learn how to properly do the exercise, tune in and see how Ben explains. I was doing this at a much lower level, and he expanded on it 10 times more. So if you haven't signed up for Muscle Intelligence, we didn't talk about this, but I'm honestly saying this is the first step I would do.
Yes. That's what I wanted to get into next, about the muscle camps. Obviously, you guys are passionate. He's been in the industry for a long time. Milos is a huge fan of yours now. You're his student.
The respect is
and
massively
now,
mutual as
you've taken it to another level. And how passionate are you about these muscle camps? Do you want them going around the world? Obviously, you guys are traveling everywhere. You are getting a lot of people that are interested.
The most important thing for people to know is, you can build muscle, and you can build a lot more than you think. You're just not doing it correctly yet. So we're here to, simplify, and certainly not make it more complex. It's going to make it so much easier than you think. And the problem you have is not your inability to do it. It's what you've been taught up to this point has not been accurate, right? We're all taught certain things in high school. We're all taught as we're growing up, like, this is how you do it. Well, that works to a point, right? Everyone will respond no matter what you do. But then eventually you reach a point where, well, now I have to do something a little bit better, or I'm not going to get results. And people just assume, like, oh, I don't have the genetics, or I don't have the ability to do this, or I don't have the time. And it's all nonsense, man. Like, we can exponentially increase your time, no matter what your goals, right? If your goal is to be the best bodybuilder on the planet, or it's just to be the best version of yourself and feel great and move well and not have joint pain and learn how to have this skill set for the rest of your life, like riding a bicycle, right? You come once and now you understand this stuff for years, and it's empowering you to have this amazing body. And that's really where this kind of started, is you know, I had some weak body parts as a bodybuilder, and I was told that, hey, it's genetic, man. And then I realized it's nonsense. You know, it's certainly a genetic component, but what's the point genetically is that when I pick up a weight, my body just doesn't naturally want to distribute tension into that muscle. So what I learned was, if I can learn to take this resistance and instead of just lifting it and moving it, I can actually consciously direct where it goes, what muscle actually moves it, right? So if I put a 50 kilo-pound dumbbell on the floor and I say, pick it up, it's very different if I say, put a 50 kilo-pound dumbbell on the floor and pick it up with just my bicep. So if I pick it up, my body's going to use all the muscles, like size principle, right? Biggest muscle all the way down to the smallest. So if I go, hey, just use your bicep, that's a very different scenario. And if you learn to direct the tension that way, you can build all these body parts. So once I learned that, I felt so empowered. I was like, why doesn't anyone talk about this stuff? So that's really what we're teaching, right? That's the foundation of it. And then once you learn how to create that internal stimulus, so that's an important thing to realize, is most people focus on what's outside of them. We're trying to create an internal stimulus, right? We want to use the external signal to create an internal response. Exercise is just a signal, man. So is food, so is light. These are all signals that your body's interpreting. So how do we create enough stress inside the body with this external signal to shift away from homeostasis and then come back to homeostasis and make a change? That's it. We're creating an internal response. And so that's really what we're teaching, is first how to create the signal in the most optimal way, and then how to move yourself back, right? So what are all those things that you can do to, you know, allow yourself ultimately, objectively, to train harder and more? But to do that, first, you got to learn how to get yourself back. And the analogy I give is you can dig yourself a hole and fill it back in, or eventually you want to be digging yourself a big hole and then filling it back in. And, you know, certainly don't want to dig yourself a trench that you can't fill back in, right? We want to be able to use all these recovery modalities and nutrition and stress mediation and sleep and supplementation to fill that proverbial hole back in, right? So objectively, when you train with this guy, you're going to build you're going to dig a big ass hole because he's going to crush you. But now we're going to give you all the skills to learn how to not only just like fill it back in as fast as possible to allow you to recover without pain, but now come back even better than you were before. That's the plan.
And, you know, going to these muscle camps, if I do 2-3 days or 4 days, do you notice that people still need more mentoring there after that? Have you got something in place where
sure.
people can reach out to you
Milos
guys?
does coaching. I do coaching. I think it's this reality that you don't know what you don't know, right? Yeah. So when you come into camp, everyone leaves going, wow, the more you learn, the less you know. That's and people come in thinking like, oh, I thought I had this figured out and I didn't. But here's the cool thing. You guys gave me some really simple frameworks, because we're not just going to teach you how to do a bicep curl. That'd be a complete waste of time. Yeah. But teaching you how to think about it. So now you can take any exercise that you want to do and apply it to every body part. It's so simple, but nobody teaches it this way. So yes, you know, giving you the skill set, giving you the knowledge, giving you the tools. And then obviously if someone wants to accelerate that, like, hey, I have a deadline, I want to do this in 3 months, I want to do this in 6 months, you know,
yes,
you work with Milos. Certainly I do some stuff as well. Milos is really emphasizing on the physique optimization. Like if you're doing a contest prep or something, he's your guy.
He's the guru.
So for myself, it's I'm doing more lifestyle optimization, mentorship, business and stuff like this. Milos, if anyone wants to do a contest prep, I mean, not just because he's one of my good friends and mentors, there's nobody better in the world who actually gives a shit about your results, right? And he won't take people on if he cares about your results more than you do, and that's important to know. Like if you're not dead committed to your results, don't even contact him, right? Because he will say like, don't waste my time.
Do you think that balances the relationship a lot, like having that framework of you can go to Milos if you want to go to that next level, and then, you know, lifestyle, you know, business mentorship? Do you think that, and obviously the philosophy, you know,
I'll tell you, man, even if I was doing physique enhancement, I think I would still send them to him just because he's the best. Like, I think I'm certainly capable, but and again, we probably have a different demographic. Yeah. But I think you know his expertise. Like, you know, I looked up to him for a reason, and that was out of a massive level of respect. And the details, the attention he pays to details is second to no one. So. You know, that's, you know, I give him all the credit for that.
And obviously, Milos, you're just as passionate as you were. Like, you really want to get people in shape. You really want to help people. You're as passionate as you were back in the 90s. I mean, how long do you see that passion going for? Like, do you see yourself doing
this? This is something, your character, it's in you. Yeah. When you have a passion, the greatest thing in life is to have passion about something, right? And as he said, I appreciate it. As, you know, true as it gets, you know, I would tell you the truth at all times. I want a maximal results. Maybe sometimes harsh on people, but because I want you to succeed. I had many times people coming in and telling me, "Oh, I know I'm doing this wrong, or I'm not doing it maximally." And I said, "Stop right there. Now think what you just said. You're an intelligent person telling me I know I'm doing it wrong. So take now anything and do it wrong. What is going to be the result?" I'm using a little different term. He always says optimization, which is correct. I always say maximization. You have to maximize it. For me, in bodybuilding, this is extreme sport, and let's put it this way. Many come to me and say, "Well, Arnold back in the day, he didn't have this, he didn't have that, and he looked, fabulous." Yes, Arnold is probably one of the best physiques of all time. Could he be better? I'm 100% convinced. If he maximized all the other aspects that he just didn't need to. And I have a lot of bodybuilders.
They're not Arnold. It's important to acknowledge that too, right? The client who's coming to you is not Arnold. They're not even Milos.
Yeah. But it's really competitors at the Olympia stage, and then they would, later after the contest, tell me, "But I didn't do everything you told me. I cheated here, I cheated there." And they're all happy, but you see, I had a great result. Imagine what would happen if you didn't cheat. Imagine if you did 100% of everything that you're supposed to. So this is my kind of mentality, and I don't want to say that I accomplished something great because I was just like top 10 in the world, but top 10 in a hardest era of bodybuilding, and you follow back in the day, you can, say 20 guys in the 90s, they were just unbelievable. So in that kind of elite competition, somebody has to be first and somebody has to be last. I remember 97 Olympia, I was 10th. Ronnie Coleman was 9th. And let's say last three guys, 11, 12, 13 was Mike Materazzo, Charles Claremont, and Mike Francois.
Yes.
Everybody phenomenal, but somebody had to be last. 1999, my last Olympia, Jay Cutler, in incredible condition, placed 15th. So when you look at it, we talked a little bit about the subjective sport of bodybuilding and how judging goes. Many times I disagree with judges, and I tell them not that you're looking at oranges and apples. If you have crystal clear definition of, I'm looking for, number one, balance, everything has to be there, shape, beautiful aesthetics, conditioning, right, muscularity, presentation, then you can define and judge them correctly, but they don't. They just look overall picture, and we talked about many times, we do disagree with the judging. And, for me, I pay attention to all the little details. When I work with Ben, we spend a lot of times on the posing as well, right? Because it's not what you have, it's what you show. And, so what you have, you can maximize it, or you can say, I'm happy with what I have. For me, since 1991, when I turned pro, I was progressively getting bigger and better. And when I finally retired, right, I could say that it was inclination. It was always a little bit progress by next time. Doesn't matter if it's minute progress, doesn't matter how slow or fast you go. If you're still going in a good direction, you're going to go there. You're going to get there. I'm just about maximization. So this is one of those things that you cannot really learn and read. You have to apply. Knowledge is power if applied. So this is what I see that Ben is doing now in many different aspects that I don't. I was myopically just contest preparation, hypertrophy, anabolism, in that direction. He applies to many other aspects. But if you apply the knowledge, right, and you read, are you supposed to only take 0.8 grams of protein per kilo, or 0.36? Okay, that's what science tells you. Now, who am I to challenge the science? Well, who is science to tell me that I must listen and obey? Okay, I'm going to go with a little bit more. It's 1 gram, better results. 1.5, 2 grams. So, this is how you get your experience about training, about supplementation, about anything else. Yeah. And
So he pretty
Something
much
to be expanded
challenged
on.
the science. He was challenging the science because science is there to be challenged too, isn't it?
Right, but there's something to be expanded on there, right? The only way you can challenge anything is with self-experimentation,
Yes.
and nobody pushed as hard in the gym as him. Nobody, like bar none, right? So that allowed him to see, hey, when I push this hard and I add in these extra things, what actually happens? It's this idea of digging a hole.
Yes.
The deeper the hole, the more you have to fill it back in. And for people to say, hey, the body can only process this much, or this is the optimal amount. Well, what are they doing with their body? How much stress are they creating to their muscular system? And nobody's created that amount of stress. So for someone to discredit that or say, hey, that's not accurate, is ridiculous, right? So sure, 0.8 grams per kilo sounds awesome, but let's then, or per pound or whatever, but then let's come and try and train with us for 3 to 4 weeks. And let's see what your recovery looks like.
Yeah.
And if it's not adequate, well, let's just push it up a little bit. And eventually, when you get to the type of training that he was doing, or we were doing, you realize that you need that amount. It's a necessity. It's not just like, oh, yeah, I'm eating extra protein because I'm hungry. It's like, if I don't eat this amount of protein, I'm not able to get back in the gym tomorrow and do what I need to do again to be a professional.
Yeah.
It's an extreme scenario, right? Not everyone's looking to be the best bodybuilder in the world, but just understanding it's always like push and adapt, and then think and then adapt, right? So without that thought process of like, if you just myopically, as he's saying, you just myopically buy into something and say this is the way it is, you don't stand a chance of progressing.
So you obviously you moved on from bodybuilding, and it is an extreme sport. Like you're walking around,
Best.
nothing else exists.
No.
Nothing else exists. Was that sort of the catalyst for you to sort of move on from your career, or are you do you think you'll ever make a comeback?
I'll never make a comeback. No, I'm done. I didn't need it anymore. When I was a young bodybuilder, I was probably insecure. I had this really particular goal, and I had such tunnel vision on it that nothing was going to stop me. Everyone in my life said, "Hey, you're never going to do this. Like, you're crazy. You're never going to do it." And it never even crossed my mind that I wasn't going to be there. But what I realized when I got there was I thought it was going to make me more confident. I thought it was going to change the person I was, and I realized it didn't. And it really allowed me to look inside and say, well, what is this? What is my purpose here? What am I doing? And I realized that my purpose can be greater than just being focused on me. I have some skills and I have some knowledge, and I'm like, yeah, I can help people based on these experiences, rather than just being selfish and focused on me. I can help my family. I can help my friends. I can help people who are wanting to learn from my experiences. And I think as soon as I was able to kind of shift that focus away from, as you say, just like tunnel vision, there's nothing else in the world that existed. We were just so selfish. As soon as I was able to shift that away, I don't think I could ever go back. It's so empowering to me, so fulfilling to me perhaps, to empower other people and accelerate their journey, make them feel good about themselves, build that confidence, and let people know that you absolutely can. The reason you're not is because of the story you tell yourself as to why you can't. And that to me is the most powerful thing. We walk down the street and both of us get like, God, hey, Milos, you changed my life. And he changed my life.
Yes.
And hopefully we can do the same for other people, man. That's why we learn, man. That's why I continue to learn voraciously every day. Is that there's something that we're all here to do. We're all meant to do, and hopefully if you work really, really hard, you'll get lucky enough to find it.
100%. No, I really enjoyed this, and guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I want people to go and do your muscle camps and your tours. You have both been very instrumental in kind of my journey in fitness, especially you, Milos. Watching you in the 90s, you're an inspiration to a lot of people. I say modern day Frank Zan, and I actually mean it. I honestly do. And obviously, Ben, I heard a lot about you through a good mate of mine, Chris Gethin, and you're pretty much everything that you said you were, which is not a good guy. I'm only joking. A really, really nice guy. And, I think it was just meant to be that you guys walked into the gym today and I was able to see you guys and be able to have a good chat about, not just about, just bodybuilding itself, but the discipline, the work ethic, the 24/7 it takes to become good at anything, not just bodybuilding, but everything in life, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your friendships with different friends, whether it's, you competing at different levels in different sports. The same principles apply to everything. And I think both of you have exemplified that and showed that tonight, and I just want to thank you guys for giving me your time. And I'm going to ask both of you guys, like, where can people find you? Obviously, you've got websites, Instagram, social media. I'll start with you, Milos.
Yeah, it's Instagram, you know, my name, Milos Sarcev, Milos Sarcev. Nobody can really pronounce it. It's
Sarcev.
Milos Sarcev, yes.
Yeah.
But that's the best way. I mean, also I have emails, first name dot last name, and then you can put anything, Gmail, iCloud, Hotmail, you know, I have everything like this. But I just want to touch that subject, as he mentioned. I think the greatest success in life is when somebody comes and say, you influenced me, you made a difference. And this is very gratifying. And for me and Ben, we're getting this all the time. And giving back, making a difference, that's what it's all about. I mean, at this time, why do we do these training camps? I mean, financially, we get compensated, but it's far and away from any major compensation. I'm sure that we make much more money off the camps. But spreading the knowledge, making a difference, going to Dubai, now Australia, we're going to go to Bali, UK, you know, as many people's lives as we can touch and change, it's a greater satisfaction.
Yeah. And you, Ben?
So muscleintelligence.com is my primary hub. So, you know, things like coaching and programs are all existing there. Muscle Intelligence Podcast is also on that website. And if you want to find access to the camps with Milos and I, it's musclecamps.com. And you'll have all the locations, as you mentioned, starting with Australia, where we are now, and then Bali, UK, and hopefully more in the future.
I love both your ethoses. Is very similar in what you want to do in the world. You want to impact more people, and it's gratifying for you guys to do that. And obviously, this doesn't even feel like work for you guys. This just feels like it's the most natural thing for you guys. It's your calling, and you're giving back to, you know, for what the sport gave you, and you're giving back more and more and making it a better place. I want to thank you for that. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, man. It's truly an honor to thank you for making the time.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate it.